at Stamford Bridge. Big Ben, say Marca. I mean, that one explains itself, doesn't it?
I think it does, Kay. Thank you for that.
So talking about his 3 goals there, the king of Europe, obviously the Champions League, and Karim Benzema is a match made in football in heaven. That's long been the case. Karim the Dream, just taking a look at some of these stats. 3rd player with a hat-trick against the current title holders, 2nd with hat-tricks in consecutive knockout round games. Cristiano Ronaldo did in 16-17. Away hat-trick, Ronaldo Nazario did that. Broke his own record as the oldest player to score a Champions League hat-trick. He's 34 years old. 4th player to score 80-plus Champions League goals. Look at the names there. Ronaldo, Lewandowski, Benzema, Messi. And they're just going to take a look at Adriano 2004-5, at Bale 2010-11, Inter versus Tottenham. Mark Ogden was at this game. How incredible was it to witness it in person, Mark? Is everybody right to be going as crazy as they are about Benzema's performance?
Absolutely. It was one of those nights, certainly the second goal, where there was a lot of people going wow in the press box. It was like, how did he get that one in? It was just an incredible header. And he really is a master of his craft, isn't he? People talk about the great centre forwards like Lewandowski, Harry Kane, and Benzema is absolutely in that bracket. And, I remember seeing him play for Lyon against Man United in 2009, and he scored this fantastic goal on the turn against, I think he turned Rio Ferdinand, scored for about 20 yards. And at that point, he was one of the hottest young strikers in Europe, and Sir Alex Ferguson tried to sign him as a replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo when Ronaldo went to Madrid, and obviously Madrid got Benzema too. And so that means he's been there for 13 years. I mean, it's just remarkable that the longevity at a club like Real Madrid, that he's still there, and he's actually, he's probably spent 5 or 6 years, doing everything for Ronaldo, doing Ronaldo's running, carrying the load for Ronaldo. And now that Ronaldo's been gone for 3 or 4 years, he's really come out of his, the shadows really, and proved what a fantastic player he is. And I don't like obsessing on the Ballon d'Or. I think it can take away, from team achievements. But I think this year, if you're looking at a candidate right now for Ballon d'Or winner, I think Karim Benzema is right up there.
I mean, it's hard to argue against when we're seeing the performances that we are from him week in, week out, and what it's like when Real Madrid don't have him in the side.
Right. It's the definition of an MVP, most valuable player. Karim Benzema is given a clinic. Every day that he steps on the field is given a clinic as to how to play the center forward position. For as much as I love the goals, there were all sorts of different movements that he had in this game that go along with the finishing qualities that he has displayed, that tell you he is just the full package in terms of playing the position. If you're a young kid out there, man, you watch this guy play, because it's the variety that he gives this team. He can give you the hold-up play. He can drop underneath and play from there as well. The movement away from the ball. And then the hunger to get into the 18-yard box and finish the chances. And once he gets himself into the position to finish the chances, then the decision-making that goes into executing those headers, as we saw yesterday. It's a fraction of a second that he has in order to decide, how am I going to put this in the back of the net? And he is so very resourceful. He has been outstanding. He has been the best player for Real Madrid for years now. And let me tell you something. Real Madrid, the one player that you have to wrap very carefully the rest of the season, and you make sure that you take care of him. If Ancelotti has to go and massage Karim Benzema himself, go and do it, Carlo, because he is the key to their success.
Yeah, and 3 goals in this one. Heavy favourites, as you can imagine, going into the second leg, which is at the Santiago Bernabeu. Just taking a look at the odds here, it is Real Madrid with the 3-1 lead on aggregate so far. And in fact, even Thomas Tuchel, the Chelsea manager, isn't giving his side a hope.
No, not at the moment, no. Sorry? What is expand?
Same.
Why it's not alive? Because we have to find our level back. I don't know where it is, but since national break, if things change, maybe. But how many clubs in worldwide football won with what we need? 3 goals difference. How often did this happen? So maybe it's only realistic to answer like this, and should not get fatalistic and think like I give the wrong message. I mean, let's be honest.
Don, were you surprised to hear this from Tuchel? I know he's a bit rattled after the game, but still, it's quite the statement.
Yeah, I think there's more to it, Kay, to be honest. I think he's going through a tough time personally regarding his marriage. I think what's going on behind the scenes at the boardroom level of the football club. He's looking at the performance against Brentford. His team's been torn apart against Real Madrid and completely outplayed and outclassed. And I think that press conference for Thomas Tuchel, I think, was an emotional one. And I think he struggled. So we have to give him a little bit of time. I wouldn't read too much into it. I don't think there's any mind games going on. I think it was just a very honest, emotional interview. And he's right in what he's saying, really, when the question got asked, is there any way back? And he's sort of saying, well, not at this level. You know, we got battered against Brentford 4-1. We got battered against Real Madrid 3-1. If we play like this in the Bernabeu, we'll get hammered. That was his words. So he's being emotional. I think when everything calms down and the dust settles, I think he'll refocus, that he'll go again against Southampton. That's a must-win because he also mentioned Southampton. He said, if we play the same, we won't even beat Southampton. So we've got no chance of beating Real Madrid. So their focus has to be on Southampton. You beat Southampton. If they do, they generate a little bit of momentum. Then you can try and look towards Real Madrid away from home. But that feels like a long way away at the moment. That was a very emotional press conference, I think.
On the surface, I would agree with what Don is saying. However, there's one small detail here that I think is important. The same things that he said in the press conference, he said on the field right after the game. So he doubled down in the press conference. The emotional part I could take if it was right after on the field. But then he took that same message and put it through onto the players, I believe, in the press conference. I think this is not just a guy who's emotional. I think this is a guy who's trying to reach his players and saying, playing like this, we're not going to achieve the things that we need to achieve. It's a message that, without hanging your players out there, is a message that is straight to the players and saying, you have to improve, and you have to improve now.
It is mind games.
I think to that point, it's mind games, but needed mind games. It's an emotional statement right after a game, but it's more about the week that Chelsea have had. After losing to Brentford, this wasn't necessarily about the Real Madrid game. This was about the week. This was about Chelsea unable to refine their focus, I think is the phrase that he used. Unable to rediscover who they were. And despite everything that he's done with them since the international break, on the training ground, despite everything that he said since that Brentford result, you produce a performance like this. And you feel the frustration for Thomas Tuchel. And I think that's where this was born. Now keep in mind, this is a Champions League quarterfinal against Real Madrid. And for as much praise as we've heaped on Real Madrid for this performance against Chelsea, in 3 hours of football against PSG, Real Madrid were the better team for nearly 30 minutes, if so much. And yet now you come into this at home and you were outclassed to that level. It speaks to how far you have fallen since being crowned European and world champions. And that's the frustration for Thomas Tuchel. Not that they were poor on the night, not that they lost on the night or have to go to the Bernabeu and turn around a result, that they have simply fallen so far and nothing that he has done on the training ground has seemed to resonate.
Confirmation that indeed was a message to the players is that in those statements, when they asked him about the second leg, he said, well, the second leg? No, let's talk about Southampton first. Southampton, that's the priority because, hey, guess what? Top 4 is now in question. Now it's a problem. Now you got issues. And you got yourself in a race that you didn't have a place before, but because of your lack of performances, now you're having some questions to answer. And he's asking those questions of his players, even if it is by way of the media.
Mark, what are they going to do with Lukaku?
Oh, well.
Well, I mean, I was watching the game. I was looking at the bench, and you got Lukaku and Werner, £150 million worth of talent, just wasted there. They're stuck with Lukaku. There's nothing they can do with him because he's on a long contract on big wages with a huge fee. They've nowhere to sell him. He's got nowhere to go. I mean, Inter Milan might want to take him back, but they couldn't afford him. Who would take Romelu Lukaku right now? Who could afford to pay for him right now? I think what Lukaku has to do is just knuckle down and realise that he's at Chelsea now for the next 2 or 3 years, get over any problems he's got, maybe stop sulking. I think there's been a bit of a sulking going on there with Lukaku this season. He likes to be the main man. He's not the main man at Chelsea. He's just got to get his head down, because this is the best club he's going to be at for the rest of his career. I think once he leaves Chelsea, he's on the way down, Lukaku. So he really has to save his big chance at the club. He keeps telling everyone that he's always dreamed of playing for. So now he's there, take the chance.
Don, do you agree with what Mark's saying about Lukaku?
I agree with what he's saying, where he's saying he needs to take the chance for sure, but I don't see a long-term future. I think he wants to move. I think he's pining to go back to Serie A. It might not be Inter, it might be Juve. I've got no idea where he's going to go, but I just don't feel as though he fits Chelsea's style. He doesn't fit Thomas Tuchel's style. They're a possession-based team. I watched him last night. He had 2 chances where one was quite a simple chance to hit the target. The rest was a mile off, but his build-up play and his hold-up play, he was trying to find spaces. Spaces weren't there. Chelsea were going side to side. I kept an eye on his movement. There was nowhere for him to run into. I've listened to the interviews that he's made, and I just can't help but feel a little bit like Timo Werner. For Chelsea fans, if they're sorry to see them go, I don't know. But I don't think it's going to happen for Timo Werner at Chelsea. I think he'll move back to the Bundesliga, someone like Borussia Dortmund. And I can see Lukaku moving back to Serie A in the summer. I just don't see it as a natural fit. It's a shame, because I think when he signed, I think most people, I wasn't one of them, but I think most people thought he was going to be Golden Boot and take Chelsea to a title. Golden Boot maybe, but not to take Chelsea to a title. I think they're way off Man City and Liverpool, but I expected a lot more.
Mark, you get the final word on this.
I mean, I think Don's right. I think he would like to go back to Italy, but it's the money situation financially. I just don't see who's got the money to do it and who can pay his wages, pay the fee. If Chelsea are going to let him go, Chelsea are going to have to lose a lot of money, and the situation at Chelsea's changed, as we know. But I think with the next week or 10 days, there'll be a new owner announced, and the new owner might think, well, I don't want to waste, 30, 40 million pounds by cutting our losses on Lukaku. So they might have to stick with him and hope that they can find a way to get the best out of him. But like Don said, I don't think his heart's in it. So I think they're stuck with a guy that doesn't want to be there.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.